Welcome to Think Smart with TMFG, the weekly podcast covering the financial topics that are newsworthy and relevant to everyday Canadians. Hosted by Senior Financial Advisor Mike Connon of the McClellan Financial Group of CI Asante Wealth Management Limited, here is today's episode.
Welcome to Think Smart with TMFG. I'm Mike Connon. This is Carlo Cancino, Senior Financial Advisor with CI Asante Wealth Management Limited. So, Carlo, we deal with business owners a lot.
Yes.
And one thing we learned is some can become very good at building a company, but much less comfortable with thinking about how to eventually step away from it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, Mike. I think that a lot of owners assume that leaving the business will feel natural once they're ready financially. But I think in reality, for many of those people, the emotional side of stepping away, it becomes a lot harder than they think. You know, they've worked for the business and built the business. And after decades of growing it and reinvesting into it and solving those everyday problems, they're basically tying their identity to the business. It's not always easy to shift out of that business owner mode.
It's like you raise kids and you're sort of upset when they leave, right?
Yeah,
It's like, I put all my life into this, and where are you going, right?
100%.
And you're going to hand your business, your baby off to someone else, and you don't know what they're going to do with it. I get it. I can see why people have all these feelings, and it's a tough thing to get over that mental hurdle to say, I spent all my life building this beautiful thing that's become my baby, and now I want to sell it to someone. It seems almost wrong in a way, doesn't it?
No, I get it. I mean, as a business owner, I don't think you build a business without being passionate about something. So if you're passionate about something and you're building a business and you're making it successful and it's generating revenue, how do you walk away from it when it's generating revenue?
Well, plus, if you've done well, it's about growth and accumulation. So everything about a business, everyone who has a business wants to be bigger tomorrow than it was
Right.
yesterday. That's your goal of that business. So everything you judge yourself on and all measurements are about how much your business can be larger than it was before. And sometimes, unfortunately, not more simple, it's just larger. Like when people ask about your business, well, how much did you do in revenue? It's a big question. And that's the big number everyone wants to hear, right?
And if you're growing your business and revenue's more, profit is more every year, how do you walk away when it's at its peak?
So let's talk about business and how they're structured, and if businesses are structured for people to leave. I've always learned the more important you are, the less your business is worth. It's a hard concept for people to get through their mind, because most people think of, when you go to work and if you're considered very important at work and everyone thinks, God, this business would never survive without you, you feel great. Your ego gets this big push.
Yeah.
I'm so needed that this is fantastic. Everyone needs me. I'm the king of everything. And that makes you feel good. But what does that do for the valuation of your business?
No, you're right. The more important you are, what happens if you're not around, whether it's retirement, whether it's, disability or an accident and passing away, then the business no longer is as successful or can be successful as it is.
People have to be using the business, not the person. And that becomes a key. Another thing that people get into is when you talk about the structure of selling your business or passing along. A lot of people have the idea of family. They have the dream when they have little kids that they're going to pass their business on to their kids. And that's nice when your kids are in grade school. But many times the kids grow up to either it's just not their forte.
Yep.
Like kids are not always like their parents, right? So just because you were a great entrepreneur does not mean your kids are necessarily going to be great entrepreneurs. And a secondary thing, they may not want to do it. I find with a lot of my clients that are business owners that are very successful, the business owners have given their whole life to the business and they work 80 hours a week and they're never home. And as soon as they say to the kids, I want you to do what I did, the kids say, no. I never saw you when I'm growing up. Are you kidding? You think I want this for my family?
Yeah.
That's not going to work. So that's one thing that usually gets in the way of some of the exit strategies we do see. So you have to figure out that. So number one, figure out if you're independent from your business and your business can run independently, understand the family, if your family is going to be involved or if they're not. And then the third is figuring out the market for your business and, if other people are interested in that type of business. The next thing that happens is many people I've seen really do live off their business. Personally, they live off their business. And when you look at their tax returns, they don't have a lot of income. You ever notice that?
Yeah. The owner managers or business owners don't typically take a lot of the income. A lot of that income remains in the business.
And what they do a lot of times, trying to reduce expenses, is they throw a lot of their personal expenses they get melded into the business. Doing a financial plan for business owners is sometimes a very frustrating thing because you ask how much do they take out of the business and they go, and you look at the salary, it says, I take $60,000 a year. You look at the mansion they live in and they're driving a Porsche, and you go, $60,000 a year? Are you sure?
Yeah.
And you go through and you look at the business, and when you go into it, a lot of their personal expenses get melded into that business and they become one. So it's great from a tax point of view because as long as you're getting away with it, you're paying less taxes and it's an efficient way to do things. The problem is when you go to sell your business, people are going to look at your books, right? And people are going to look at how much the business is making.
Mhm.
So as you run all these expenses through the business, that doesn't look great as far as, I guess, EBITDA is what we call the way to value a business. When you go look at those expenses all built in there, very hard to separate that out. And, when people have to go and sell a business, they have to go and it's almost a purification of that business. And what they have to do is they have to make the business so it's now separated from their personal life. And it's something you can put on the table for an accountant or a business evaluator to look at and judge what your business is really worth.
It's a bit of a balancing act when it comes to reducing your own annual personal tax bill, by running a few more expenses through the business. But also, to your point, once that's being done and realizing what EBITDA is and what the multiple is going to be and what the value of your business is going to be, there's got to be some forward planning about that. Slowly and gradually getting those personal expenses out so that the valuation of the business can be higher when you're looking to exit.
Years ago, I dealt with a very successful financial advisor.
Okay.
And we started talking about numbers and everything. And we're sitting down discussing our businesses. And when we used to look at our business, we used to go look at how much the business made. And he said to me one day, well, how much do you take out? I said, no, well, that's how much the business makes. He goes, no. You used to take a salary, right? If you weren't there, you need to hire a CEO or whatever's in your position. And that's going to cost X amount of money to replace that.
Right.
You have to go and put that figure into your numbers to show what your business is actually worth. And it makes a big difference in the valuation of the business because someone who buys your business from an investment, they may have to hire a CEO to take over that position. That's not going to be free.
Right.
So a lot of times how I can tell very structured and good business owners from ones that are still not quite that structured is if they're taking a salary or not. Once they get to the area where they're actually taking a salary, I can tell they're in a very good and well-structured business because they understand where they're going to prepare that business for sale. Now let's touch on when you retire from a business, it's not actually the same as retiring from a job.
Right.
It's different. And some people we've actually met don't even have to actually retire from business. So they just sell businesses to start another business. So it doesn't necessarily mean a business being sold. Many times it is people retiring, but sometimes it's just someone going on to want to change direction in their life. They were in one area for a while and they thought, okay, I've maximized what I can do in there. I'm bored. Let me move on to something that's more interesting. And they'll go to the next company and try to grow that. And these are the true entrepreneurs. A true entrepreneur never retires.
No, and that's the point I was going to make is it takes a special kind of person to build a successful business and run with it. Now, there could be small businesses where you have a specific skill and a specific product that people will love. And at the end, when it's time for you to retire, that business ends. But for an entrepreneur who is just looking to create value and create revenues and take profits, that just doesn't go away when you decide to retire. If you sell a specific business, you probably still have the need to go out and create something that's going to be profitable.
They always say you only try from things you don't like doing.
Yeah.
And when you find the real entrepreneurial people that are like that, they will continue to find new business opportunities because they just become bored without it. And even their spouses will come back and say, you got to find something because they're going to drive me crazy.
Yeah.
They need to be doing something. So it's the one thing with that mental idea of I'm going to sell my business. It is a lot of your personality is into that business. And a lot of your importance and everything you have in life is built around that. So sometimes people do need to go and do something else afterwards that keeps that part of their, let me say, ego, for lack of another term, supported.
Yeah, it's about the identity. A lot of the time when you have a business and it's been very successful, you become associated with that and hard to let that go. Once you've sold the business or retired from that business, does that mean you don't have any purpose? And that drives that entrepreneurial spirit to create another business, to create another identity.
So when someone's thinking about selling their business, when should they start to talk to their financial advisor about it? Like the few months before they're selling?
No, that conversation would be far earlier, years in advance.
It is. And it's a matter of sitting down with your advisor and starting to say, okay, how can we make this business more sellable, right? How can we get the maximum value for this business? How can I get myself less involved in the business so it can run on its own so someone can actually go and take it over? Find a structure that's going to allow me to, number one, many times the structures, you want to separate the business assets from the financial assets of the company. Sometimes people want to move to a whole co situation where they can actually take the financial assets that they build in the business, keep that business for themselves, and sell the opco part of the business. Many people have bought land over time in the business. Then the decision comes to, are you going to sell the land with the business, or are you going to go and rent or lease it out to the people who are buying the business, which happens many times. So there's a lot to go through when you're actually going to sell a business. And it's sometimes a process that takes quite a few years to go figure out. And you need to be talking to someone all the way along that to get it prepared. So it's not all of a sudden, I want to just get out of this business. And it's so important to do. And many times we see people getting rid of businesses because they're struck by an illness or something like that. And it's a fire sale and it's a mess.
And the moment you start thinking about talking to your advisor, exiting the business, the earlier it's done, you have the opportunities to look at the strategies that can be put in place, in ensuring that, Mike, you were talking about purification of the assets or of the business so that there's no double taxation that's occurring from an opco to a holdco. Those are the things that need to be done, and it's not going to happen overnight.
And many times, some of my favorite meetings are sitting down with clients and their accountants, because the accountants are really the key to these transactions, and they're going to find the most tax efficient way to get this sale to happen. And many times there'll be a business valuator in there too, who will generally be along a CA or some along that line to value the business. So working together with all those different parties, you're going to need your lawyer, you're going to need your accountant, you're going to need your financial advisor. And this is the time where you should all have them in one room to figure out where things are going, how this sale is going to happen, and a strategy going forward. If you do keep, let's say, a holdco, let's figure out how you're going to get money in the future. And let's talk about how we're going to draw money out, how that's going to be taxed, how it should be invested, and how this is going to get you through the rest of your life. So that's all conversations that need to be had. So building a successful business and exiting one are two really different strategies and skill sets, isn't it? It's about a year ago now, Rob retired from our business. Right? And we learned a lot through that. And it worked out very well for both Rob and myself when he was retiring, just to go through the whole strategies on what was the best way to deal with this from a financial point of view, from a tax point of view.
Right.
And we got to sit down with accountants and lawyers and figure out the best strategy. And it was very good because it was both of us working together to come up with a common goal. And it was so useful in making sure both parties do very well throughout their life, because I know Rob built this business and it was his passion. It was his life. And his biggest concern that all the clients that he's taken on all of these years are going to be taken care of on for the rest of their life. More than money, more than anything, to make sure this thing you built, and not only for the clients, but for the staff and all the people that work here, this is going to be a continued entity and it's going to be successful in the future. And what you have to do is you have to find what's really important to you in your life that you want to go and have your legacy, and make sure that everything you're doing is going in that direction.
Yeah. You know what? The earlier that an entrepreneur begins thinking about diversification or succession, transition planning, or their personal financial structure, the more flexibility that you have, you can preserve more later. So if you're a business owner and you're wondering how prepared your corporation or your personal financial situation is for the future, feel free to reach out to us. And if you want to learn more about diversification and retirement planning for business owners, there's also a link in the show notes to an amazing article written by one of our financial advisors and co-host, John Iaconetti. And that's entitled 10 Years to Retirement, What Every Business Owner with $1 Million Should Be Doing Right Now. As always, we'd be happy to help you think through those decisions with you. And if you'd like to learn more about TMFG, check the show notes for details on how to connect with us. You can also visit tmfg.ca or call our office directly, 905-771-5200. If you've got questions or topics you'd like us to discuss in future episodes, feel free to leave a comment.
Thank you very much, everyone. That brings us to the end of another episode of Think Smart with TMFG. Have a great day.
You've been listening to Think Smart with TMFG with Mike Connon of the McClellan Financial Group of CI Asante Wealth Management. Don't forget to subscribe to Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube Music, and leave us a review. For more insights and resources, visit tmfg.ca or follow the link in the episode description. This program was prepared by Michael Connon, Senior Financial Advisor with CI Asante Wealth Management Limited. This is not an official program of CI Asante Wealth Management Limited, and the statements and opinions expressed during this podcast are not necessarily those of CI Asante Wealth Management Limited. CI Asante Wealth Management Limited is a member of the Canadian Investor Protection Fund and the Canadian Investment Regulatory Organization. This show is intended for general information only and may not apply to all listeners or investors. Please obtain professional financial advice by contacting us at 905-771-5200 or visit tmfg.ca to discuss your personal circumstances before acting on any information presented.